from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, the head of EPA takes fire in a Washington hearing while the Farm Bill begins debate.
Is it still necessary to have a farm bill in the 21st century?
Yes.
In agribusiness, the impact of higher oil prices.
China's imports of oil, crude oil is pretty aggressive.
And drought worries grow in cattle country along the southern plains and desert green as a New Mexico farmer finds a future in Lone Star State.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The head of the Environmental Protection Agency takes fire from both sides of the aisle as major ag issues linger.
Every day there seems to be a new scandal and you at dead center.
That was characteristic of the questioning Administrator Scott Pruitt faced during his hearing before the Senate Subcommittee on Interior, Environment, and Related Agencies. Now, the hearing was supposed to look at the fiscal 2019 budget request from the EPA. Instead, it focused heavily on recent ethics concerns and policy decisions. National reporter Betsy Gibbon joining us now with more from the hearing.
Clinton EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt is making a name for himself in ag circles. On one hand, he's working to eliminate the waters of the U.S. rule many ag groups opposed. On another, recent RFS obligation waivers have put him under intense scrutiny. From praise,
thank you for appearing before the subcommittee today and all your very good leadership as head of the EPA.
To friction.
You're trailing a string of ethical lapses and controversies. They're an embarrassment to the agency, an embarrassment to Republicans and Democrats alike.
Wednesday, little to none of the senator's questions pertaining to the waters of the United States withdrawal and replacement timeline or the renewable fuel standard. The intense scrutiny spilled over into other aspects of his tenure at EPA. Critics at the hearing vocal about his questionable behavior, alleging Pruitt paid one advisor who did not show up for work during a 3-month period, asking Pruitt if he allegedly requested sirens on his motorcade visits during times when it was not an emergency, and investigating his spending practices.
By my count, there are 14, including the inquiry I requested today, and I'm confident the GAO will accept. And it's 16 if you include the 2 ongoing reviews by your bosses at the White House and the OMB.
With about 11 or 16 pending investigations, whatever it is, there have been reports that you intend to establish a legal defense fund. Is that true?
I understand that that's being set up, yes.
Okay, so you're in the process of setting that up.
It's been set up.
On the ag front, Pruitt says he hopes to have a WOTUS plan finalized and replacement text released by the end of the year. He also commented on the Ag Worker Protection Program and child worker safety, saying he hopes to leave some of those answers to the states. Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley is also threatening to ask Pruitt to resign over the ethanol waivers issue. Grassley saying he will ask the administrator to step down if he does not scale back those waivers issued to refiners seeking exemptions from the biofuels law.
Here we are, something of great interest to the economy of Iowa, to a cleaner environment, to creating better prices for farmers, good jobs in rural America. It's pretty important that we fight for ethanol. And if Pruitt can't deliver, I want somebody else in there to do it.
All right, thanks, Betsy. The House of Representatives taking up the Farm Bill debate Wednesday.
We're in the midst of a 5-year recession in agriculture. Farmers and ranchers have seen net income drop by 52%. This is among the steepest declines in net farm income since the Depression. I fully support a full-throated debate over the Farm Bill, but I also want everyone to be aware of just what's at stake.
On Tuesday, the House Rules Committee approving a structure for floor debate of the Farm Bill. It's allowing 1 hour of general debate and 10 minutes per amendment. The Rules Committee meeting again Wednesday to finalize which amendments will make it to the floor, including those dealing with farm safety net programs. The biggest sticking point from a bipartisan perspective remains the new work requirements for some on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Between 5 and 7 million SNAP recipients are likely to be impacted there. Today marks the deadline set by House Speaker Paul Ryan for a newly negotiated NAFTA agreement That line looks like it's likely going to be missed, while NAFTA negotiators from the U.S., Canada, and Mexico continue to work through some of the toughest issues. The key negotiators, including U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, are not scheduled to meet this week, although they are on call. Now, moods from those involved remain positive, even as some of the hardest issues are yet to be resolved. Thus far, it's been a very quiet visit for trade leaders from China. The Chinese Vice Premier meeting with Senate Finance Chairman Orrin Hatch and House Ways and Means Chairman Kevin Brady Wednesday to discuss issues regarding the U.S.-China economic relationship. President Trump continuing to tout the talks as he says the U.S. is working on a larger trade deal between the two nations. Let's switch over to farm country and planting progress from around the nation. For that, we turn to our own meteorologist, Mike Hoffman. He has today's crop comments.
Good morning, Clinton. Planting is tough work. We got this picture from Peterson Farm Seeds and Andy Sweet. They say planting is exhausting. You can see little Drew curled up on the floor of the tractor for a nap. And of course, why not curl up with a puppy while the field is being planted? And let's take a look at the wind speed forecast. You can see it's not going to be very windy to start today, a little bit in the northern plains, but it does end up being a little windy in the far western plains, mainly the high plains, back into the southwest, a little bit in the southern Great Lakes. Heading into the day tomorrow, we're still going to be fairly windy from the Dakotas down into Kansas and parts of the eastern Great Lakes. And it just picks up as we head through the afternoon hours, as is pretty typical. We'll have your forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
Keeping track of the shifting market prices has never been so easy. Get the latest commodity prices sent directly to your cell phone with market updates. Just text Markets 8 to 31313 to get started.
We'll be talking the corn ethanol demand picture and oil business. That's next at the Agribusiness Desk. And later, a New Mexico farmer finds a new home in Texas. A story in his own words. Later on AgDay.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
In agribusiness, another bumpy trading session Wednesday. Details now from our friends on the floor.
Today, soybeans really dropped hard, double digits. The tariff worries are really pressing the futures lower. The concerns really halted the demand from China, and so we don't have any exports really going towards that area. There are talks in Washington right now. No one's exactly sure as how well they're going. Commercials are also unloading some of their long positions, and I think that they have a little bit of an idea that there's worries that there's going to be big disruption in this market, especially that we're on the precipice of the planting season. So we're watching everything day to day and really close. Corn was mixed today. It seems that the national corn basis is really strong, but futures continue to move higher. And it looks like that we're going to try to aim for the high, which is $4.08. We haven't been above $4 in quite a while. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago.
Americans spent an extra $4.4 billion on gasoline last month compared to April of 2017. That's according to new governmental data. So what does this higher oil price mean for ethanol in the corn market? Diane Morgan joins us now from the Agribusiness Desk with more.
Here now is Sue Martin of Ag and Investment Services. Sue, let's look at kind of the ethanol, the corn, the oil market all together. When you look at these oil prices, we've seen some impressive movement when it comes to oil.
We really have. And I think part of it is inflationary. You know, China's imports of oil, crude oil is pretty aggressive. And the U.S. stocks keep getting drawn down. And it's just amazing to hear us export as aggressively as we have been. Then in the meantime, you've got Venezuela in very deep financial trouble. And so when I look around the world and I see economies growing as they are, and of course, especially with all the endeavors, the ambitious goals that China has between now and the end of 2020 and even stretching out into 2025, I would have to say that the demand for crude oil is going to be, and energies is going to remain very good.
And if we see demand for crude oil end up being extremely positive and that spills over into prices, do you think that helps generate more demand for ethanol and in the end helps support corn prices.
Absolutely. I don't see it any other way. It's very supportive. And actually, corn's kind of almost ignored what crude's been doing. You know, it's been so quiet. And I think it's because of the fact that we all knew that acres might go down this year and that type of thing. But I think what it is the surprise, I think, is that with the old crop stock still in the farmer's hands, I think, you know, there's an old saying, you got to get them out of the farmer's hands and into the commercial hands to get it moving. But the bottom line is, there's one thing on corn, for example, and I'm almost deviating a hair here, but on Dees corn, you've got December corn of this year and December corn of 2019 neck to neck. There's no carry. And it almost gives a feel or an implication that we could possibly be looking at inverted markets next year. That's another reason producers want to be careful not getting too aggressive selling another crop year out. We're 5-6 years into this from the all-time high in 2012.
Yes.
So I just caution people being too willing to do that. We've just been saying when you sell things, have a way back into the market to keep the top side open by call options. And they're cheap yet, actually.
All right, Sue Martin, thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll have a check of weather here on Ag Day.
Talk markets one-on-one with Sue Martin. Call Ag and Investment Services toll-free at 1-800-527-0051 or visit her website, www.futurescashinfo.com.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, we focus a lot on the Midwest, the Southwest, Southern Plains, but the East Coast looks like it may get a dousing this week.
Yeah, and this is still from that very slow-moving tropical-like system that's come out of the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see this morning it's kind of rotating over northern Alabama and northern Mississippi along this stationary front. It's going to move a little bit farther north, and that's going to start trending eastward along this stationary front. But the whole time, it's going to continue to draw in Gulf moisture across Florida, and it's already been very wet over the past 3 or 4 days in much of Florida. On up into the mid-Atlantic states, going to be pulling in some Atlantic moisture as well. Now, we do have two systems out west, a slow mover in the Pacific Northwest, a little faster moving system coming across the northern plains as we head into tonight and tomorrow. You can see some scattered showers and thunderstorms there. 7 a.m. tomorrow, that system is over North Dakota, the southern system over central Tennessee. That will start to move northeastward into northeast Tennessee by later on in the day tomorrow, and the northern system is into northwestern Minnesota by that point, with a cold front producing some showers and thunderstorms, at least hit and miss variety across the northern and north central plains. Precipitation estimate past 24 hours, like I said, we've already seen a lot of rain. Parts of the panhandle of Florida on down through the peninsula as well, and some sections of the mid-Atlantic. But you add in the next 36 hours, and our computer model is showing some of the areas just east of the Appalachians in Virginia getting 10 to 12 inches of rain. I mean, that's a lot of rain in a short period of time. They are a little bit on the dry side, but that won't be the case if they end up getting that much. Here are the temperatures this afternoon, 80s all the way up throughout the plain states, and 70s and 60s through the northeast and the northwest. Taking in temperatures tonight, you can see it stays pretty muggy from the mid-Atlantic all the way down to Texas. Pleasant, though, across most of the Corn Belt, and high temperatures tomorrow. Not quite as many 80s, but we'll still see a lot of 70s all the way up into Minnesota, a little bit cooler air behind that second front coming into North Dakota. And you can see with the jet stream, there's the upper level trough there, kind of folds in and moves with the main trough as we head through the weekend and out to sea it goes. But all in all, we're looking at kind of a little bit of a trough out west, ridge through the middle, a little bit of a trough in the northeast. That means heat will be on throughout the middle of the country. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. For Belfield, North Dakota, partly sunny, maybe an afternoon thunderstorm in spots, high of 81. Lake Charles, Louisiana, partly sunny, hot and humid, high 94. And Cambridge, Ohio, partly sunny. There is a chance of a thunderstorm, high around 76.
Millions of cows stand in states facing drought this summer. We'll take a closer look coming up next on Drovers TV. And among the tans and taupes of the desert, this New Mexico farmer is making his mark on the landscapes of Texas. From the editors at Drovers, it's only mid-May, but cattle producers are worried about summer grazing prospects. Last week, USDA releasing the first of its weekly pasture and range conditions report for the U.S., the season opening with the lowest ratings for the same time period since 2014. Approximately 20% of U.S. pastures are in poor to very poor condition. That's more than 10% higher than last year at this time. The western region is even worse. 30% of pastures are poor to very poor.
Hot, dry weather and short pastures obviously stress cows and reduce calf performance, and the effects can stretch into next year with lower conception rates from undernourished cows.
5 states at the center of this year's exceptional drought designations are Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Colorado, and Kansas. Those 5 states are home to 9.5 million cows, or about a third of the nation's cow herd.
Look, your general garden variety dry line thunderstorms that we get every year in this part of the world coming through are not going to fix the problem. You're not going to be able to get just a regular front coming through and fix the problem. We're going to need a massive storm complex that will fundamentally change the atmospheric profile, getting more moisture in. Is this the spring and summer that we see that shift? I'm not ready to say that yet.
Martin says the drought in 2011 covered a wider area than the Southern Plains drought today. However, he does compare the drought-stricken areas to 2011. Cattle movements have beef packers enjoying strong profits this spring. According to the latest Sterling Beef Profit Tracker, last week's combination of lower cash cattle prices and higher beef cutout values pushed packer margins to $214 per head. Now, feed yard margins, they fell $15 per head, now sitting at $92. A month ago, cattle feeders were losing more than $40 per head. A year ago, it was profits that topped $500 per animal. When we come back, we'll stay in the hot, dry climate of Texas, where this transplant farmer is finding success haying fields of grain.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
Growing up in southern New Mexico, green was often hard to come by, but you could always count on the fields of alfalfa to add color to the palette. Well, today, the Texas Farm Bureau introduces us to a New Mexico farmer now planting roots in a desert oasis in Texas.
My entrance into the agricultural world is a unique one in the fact that we didn't start off with a multi-generation farm. I grew up in the sandbox behind my parents' house, watching agriculture take place every day, knowing that I wanted to be a part of it. We started with 10 acres and we've just kind of grown from there. In Texas now, we're mainly specializing in alfalfa. The beautiful thing about high altitude, warm days, cool nights is the amount of protein that we can put into the alfalfa, and the fact that we can grow something like this that we can cut and bale multiple times and the animals can get what they need out of one bale or one bag of our feed. Season starts in April and we try to finish up somewhere around middle November. What we try to do is cut and bale on a 28-day schedule. We can get anywhere from 7 to 8 cuts out here depending on what our weather patterns are doing for the year. Once we start, we never stop all the way through the season. With our alfalfa, we try to do 2 different processes. One is the cut and baled alfalfa that are shipped all over the country, and the other one is the premium chopped alfalfa, and then that's shipped all over the world. We're only 2 hours away from our New Mexico farm, and there's so many variances between what we do there and here. In New Mexico, we rely heavily on the Rio Grande River, whereas here it's strictly irrigation well pumping. With some of the new technologies that we've implemented on the farm already, we know that we're saving over 1 million gallons of water a day. We're able to utilize our natural resource at a responsible rate. It's just been amazing to see how we've taken our small farm and grown it with great people, great partners, and a drive to not only grow good food and fiber, but a drive to be transparent in the way that we produce those. We have to be able to be adaptive, and one of the biggest things that I've adapted to is social media. My dream is for people to understand where things are coming from on the farm. There's so many challenges in agriculture. You know, talking about labor and employees, it's extremely difficult for us to be able to compete with the oil field, you know, right across the mountain. You treat your employees like you would treat yourself, then you don't have a hard time with retention. We're looking to hire young people that have families. We want to see the school district grow. We want to see commerce in our small towns start to grow. The biggest thing about anybody's occupation is waking up in the morning and truly just loving what you do. My sweet wife has no agricultural background, but she was crazy enough to marry me and move to the middle of nowhere. And our little daughter Harvest came along, and people ask, do you think she'll take over the reins someday? And I hope so, but at the same time, I want her to pursue her dreams. Nobody told me what I had to do in life, and I'm going to give her every option that she can to be able to do what she wants to do.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. It's been part of your day with us. From Mike Hoffman and all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.